Okay, we are continuing with the laws of Pesach. Passover is coming very soon. We have to learn the laws, otherwise we're not going to know anything. So let's keep going. We're talking about now whether or not one is allowed to own chametz, unleavened bread, particles, over Pesach. It's allowed to have in his house. So we talked about already the search, and we talked about getting rid of it. Now we're talking about what happens if there's chametz that doesn't belong to him or her in his or her house. What do we do with that? So we have an akum, we have a non-Jew, shehikpid chamtzoi etzel Yisrael, that he deposited the chametz with Yisrael. In other words, deposited it for keeping or watching or something like that. Imhu chayiv b'achrayis, if the Jew is obligated in it, then loy shana imhu bebeisai, I b'kol makom b'shus chayiv l'avaru. Doesn't make a difference whether it's in his house or in any of his possessions, whether it's in his house, his garage, anywhere else, he has to get rid of it. The kasav Rabbi Yitzchak, davka kishachayiv b'gamayu avad. This is only if the liability level for him is going to be the amount that in other words, that he is he's liable for theft or for loss. In other words, if he's liable for to replace it, that's something. But if it's given to him and and he doesn't have to watch it necessarily, and nothing else happens, then it's fine. Ubal halachas gedolos, and the Baal halachas says, Kasav, he wrote, Da'afilu im hu shomer chinam, even if he's a free watcher, alav, right, and therefore his liability is the least of all the watchers, of all the people who have to watch something. Einei chayev, he's not obligated. Ella b'pshia chayev lavar, only through negligence. And so my father Rush, he agreed with him. So the Torah says that the Rush agrees with that point. So even if he's a free watcher and he's not really obligated in a lot, but he's obligated in negligence enough to make him have to destroy the chametz. So again, if a non-Jew deposits chametz in the Jew's house, it's going to be over Pesach, and the Jew is obligated to secure it, to make sure that nothing happens to it, the Jew actually has to destroy it. So it could say literally destroy, or it could be with the bittul, because clearly if it doesn't belong to him and it has to go with the guy, then he has to do the bittul. He has to nullify it at the very least, because he can't have it, he can't own it, he can't possess it on Pesach. But it seems like the simple reading of it is the fact that it is that actually has to destroy it and then pay the non-Jew back after the holiday. Kasav Rambam, the Rambam wrote, Afilu im einei chayev b'achrayis, even if he's not obligated in any obligation toward it, Elo sha'akum alam v'chayfa l'shalem im yavad chayev l'balei. But the non-Jew is very violent and was compelled to pay for it, even if it's not legally obligated, but the guy's a bully. So then he must destroy it. This is talking about in cases where Jews lived under the thumb of a foreign rule, and there were times where even if it was not the law, but the neighbor would force the Jew to do certain things. So if that's the case, and there's a chametz, then he is obligated to destroy it. If he's not responsible for it, then he's not obligated to destroy it. Even the non-Jew is under his authority or resides in his courtyard, so it's not his, it's the non-Jew's. It could stay in his house, he does not have to destroy it or even do a nullification. So the question, of course, is going to come is, how is it possible for a Jew to sell chametz to a non-Jew? Because once you sell to a non-Jew and it's still in the Jew's house, you can't sell something and then not watch it. So long as it's in the non-Jew, as long as it's the non-Jew's possession, but it's in the Jew's house, it's sort of like it's owned by the non-Jew, but the Jew's responsible for it. So how does that work? So in such a case where he's not responsible for theft or loss, he does a separation of at least 10 tfachim, which is about 30 inches, so that he should remember and not eat it. It's not his. Oh, in other words, you lock it up in a cabinet, you put tape on it, this is not yours, this doesn't belong to you, you put it somewhere else, and you know that's not yours. Hilkach akom shenichnas bayis Yisrael, so that the non-Jew will come to the house of Yisrael, Pesach, the chametz, and he has chametz biyadei in his hand, and is zakuk lahaitzi. So if a non-Jew comes to visit a Jew, and he happens to bring chametz, into the house, the Jew does not have to get rid of it because it's not his, and the non-Jew can take it out afterwards, and obviously should not leave it behind, but it's not his. He doesn't have to destroy it. If he deposited with him and he accepts responsibility for it, then he has to destroy it. But if he designated a certain place for it, he says, if he says, you know what, give me the chametz, I'll hold it in my house. I'm going to put it in a special place. It's not mine. I'm not going to go near it. I'm not going to go touch it. But you'll know where it is, and you come and get it anytime you want over the Pesach holiday. So then he's not required to destroy it, and that's how we do the sale. You sell the chametz to a non-Jew. You put it into a place in your house where you know you're not going to go. You know you're not going to touch it. The non-Jew wants, he could come into the house anytime on Pesach and go ahead, get access to it, and take it. So that's how it works. You don't have to destroy it. You don't have to do nullification. It belongs to the non-Jew, and that's how it goes. Rashi Bishaloi Kibel Olav Achrayas. And Rashi says this is only if you don't accept responsibility for it. Rabbeinu Tam parish, but Rabbeinu Tam explains, Afilu Kibel Olav Achrayas. The Jew said, you know what, I'm putting it in a special place. It's going to be away. I'm not going to touch it, but on the same token, I'm not going to let anyone else touch it. Since it's designated in a special place in the house, so therefore, it's not considered present in the house. That part where the chametz is now sort of considered like a separate rishus. It's now the rishus that the non-Jew has in the Jew's house, not the Jew's rishus, and therefore it is fine to be left there. And therefore, the Tor's father, Rabbi Yaakov ben Rab Asher, his father, this is what he felt like. He held that the rule is based on his learning of the Talmud, and this is how the Torah he gives his authority as well. Yisrael shehipkid chamtzai eitzel Yisrael chaverai eitzel akum. If Yisrael deposited chametz with a non-Jew or with another Jew, the kibel lav v'nikvad achrayis, and the other person accepted obligation. Yesh min ha'gainim shekasvu kevan shekibel alav hikbed achrayis, that the gainim, which are the people who were between the time of the Talmud and the time of the Rishonim, so people who basically were from the 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th centuries. So they said that the custodian accepts responsibility, so the one deposited does not violate the fact. He's not violate the fact that he's going to have chametz over Pesach. But Rabbeinu Yonah, who came after the Gaonim, he still wrote shahamakbid over love im enoi ma'aver. It's still you even deposited it. You still violate the prohibition if he does not destroy it. And the Rosh agrees. So we should, because chametz is a Torah obligation, and even if you gave it to someone else, but it's still yours, even if it's someone else's possession, you still should make sure that is nullified, because that could still be violating the Torah law of having chametz over Pesach. Now we're up to Simin Taf Mem Aleph. 441. Akum shehelvel Yisrael. If a non-Jew loan money to Yisrael, see that actually happened. That could happen also. Non-Jews also loan money to Jews. It wasn't always the other way around. Al chamsai mishkanai biyadai, and the chametz is going to be the collateral. Abala Yisrael, and he says to Yisrael, actually from here on out, he shulcha is for you. Im loy efrol chazman. So what he says, so the Jews can say to non-Jew, this chametz now is yours. If I'm not able to pay you back, then even from this time until that time, it's yours. In other words, let's say the loan is due on Tuesday after Pesach, and now it's about the eve of Pesach, so it's a week before. So you tell the non-Jew, by the way, the chametz is yours from now. If I'm not able to pay you back next Tuesday, and next Tuesday comes, doesn't pay him back, so then the chametz belongs to the non-Jew. So then it's mutter to have it over Pesach because it really belonged to the non-Jew. Aval im chasar echad me alai. But if one of these elements are missing, either it's not collateral that's in his hand, he doesn't say from now, or he repaid him, or if he actually repaid him on time, so then it's usher to do that. Aval, but when these three conditions are present, even if the time is set for repayment does not arrive until after Pesach, it's still considered that it's fine, and therefore it was not like he had the chametz over Pesach. Rav Ephraim wrote specifically when the time is set for the payment arrives before Pesach and not after Pesach. Rambam, so the Rambam says. And the Ravid says, Hisig alav. He disagrees with him. But Amar Higias man kaidim bepesach v'loy fereh, that the time arrived before Pesach and he did not repay. Afilu loy Amar me'achshar mutter. Even if they say from now, then it's still fine because he ultimately did not pay and it came on before Pesach and he did not pay, so therefore the chametz ended up being the non-Jews anyway. Hiskim adoni avi Rosh. My father, the Rosh, agreed with that, says the Torah. Let's say it's the other way around, and this is how we sell chametz to a non-Jew on Pesach. Let's say the Yisrael loaned money to the non-Jew against his chametz, against the non-Jew's chametz. Okay, so okay, this is not how we sell. Sorry, this is still going on. The chametz now belongs to non-Jew. If the collateral is in the Jew's hand. And he says, if you don't pay aser afilu ein hachrayis, even doesn't take responsibility, because it becomes there retroactively. If he didn't say to him from now, should be but from now, and even the collaterals in his possession is permitted. So therefore, again, if it has to be the exact opposite as the case. So if it's the non-Jew's chametz and the non-Jew has to pay back a collateral to the chametz, and the non-Jew ends up not paying it, but the Jew did not say the possession is from now, it's only for when the loans come due, so then the chametz was not in the possession of the Jew during Pesach, and therefore that's fine. Even if and I was saying even if the Jew held it because it really was a non-Jew's chametz that he was holding as collateral. Aval im loy amar me'achshav, if he said to him from now, afal pi b'shachas yadoy mutter. Even if it says the collateral in his hands, it is permitted. This provided that the Yisrael did not take any responsibility for it. If the Yisrael took responsibility for it, even if it was just collateral, he's obligated to destroy it, to have gotten rid of it, and he had it over Pesach. It could then be considered as if he had chametz over Pesach. Now, we're going to go to Simin Tough Membeis, and this is again in Tur Orach Chaim. This is a very, 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 very long siman, very complicated, very back and forth. So instead of going step by step in it, which I could do another video on it, right now, for the purposes of just trying to get through the laws before Pesach, I'm going to now give you a summary of it. Okay, so let's do that. I'm going to give a summary of it now. Now, the Torah's practical halacha conclusions in this passage are as follows. Okay, the obligation to remove small pieces of dough or chametz depends primarily on their size and their function. In other words, how small they are and what their function is for. If there's a kazayas of dough in one place, then he has to remove it and he has to destroy it. Okay, that's obvious. When the dough is less than a kazayas, it's smaller than a piece of like an olive, which is a small little piece, of a crumb. The obligation depends on whether it serves a function. Dough that is used to strengthen or seal cracks in a vessel, for instance, let's say you take dough and use it to seal cracks in a vessel. You don't use it for food. You're doing it to, sort of as a stopper. It's considered that it's nullified to the vessel, and he's not required to remove it, obviously, and ruin his vessel. However, dough that does, and by the way, and this means even if it's not part of the vessel, he has it as part of paste to fix the vessel. So if it's part of a vessel, even if it's more than a kazayas, I would say, then even if it's more than a small tiny amount, should be enough, because it's part of the vessel. It's not food chametz, it's actually part of the vessel, so it's nullified to the vessel. But if it's smaller and it's made and it's meant or designated to fix that crack in the vessel that has not done it yet, then it's still nullified to the vessel if it's smaller than an olive and it's meant for that. However, though, the dough that does not serve such a strengthening purpose must be removed, even if it is less than the kazayas, in places where food preparation occurs. So even if it is used for some other purpose-sized food, but it's near food, it has to be gotten rid of. Despite these technical distinctions, the Rush notes that it's a practice of Jews customarily to scrape away all chametz, even the smallest amounts, including what's stuck in the walls of the house. Now you have to know, there is no size for Torah law to be obligated on chametz on Pesach. So even if you have crumbs of bread in your kitchen and you have that over Pesach, that's also not good as long as you could see it, as long as it's in places where food could touch, where food goes. So if it's underneath the oven, you're not going to reach it. It's a different story. But if it's like a counter, you cannot have even breadcrumbs on your counter during Pesach, even small amounts, because breadcrumbs is food. Again, now the beginning we're talking about where it's not food, where it can be used for other purposes, and it can't be near food, and it has to be nullified toward the thing that it's the purpose that it's made. Let's say your kid comes home and they made a macaroni necklace, right, with dried macaroni. They made a necklace with dried macaroni, and you hang it on the wall. You don't have to get rid of it because A, it's not food, B, it's art, and it's not near food, and you're not going to use it as food. So therefore, that is not chametz you have to get rid of on Pesach. Okay, so we have the custom that all excess chametz that's just loose and lying around still has to be gotten rid of. So therefore, we have products that are, let's say, medications, cosmetic products that contain traces amounts of chametz. Those also we do not use on Pesach, even though we're not going to eat them. We should still not use them on Pesach. It should not be for use. It should be put away. Okay. Regarding kneading troughs and similar utensils that are used during the year, it is difficult to clean them thoroughly enough to ensure that a combined kazayis or dough does not remain, that since small pieces may combine. Therefore, some authorities, and we rule this way, give the vessel to a non-Jew until after Pesach, or sealing it with clay, or some other things. So when we sell the chametz to a non-Jew, we also sell all the chametz that are on top of our vessels. So if we do have kneading trays and other things where little amounts of chametz cling to and it's possible to get rid of, you put away that blender, you put away the kneading tray, you put away the mixing bowl, you put away your wooden spoon, whatever it is, those utensils you can't get the chametz out of, you put that all away. You sell the chametz, not the utensils themselves, but you sell the chametz on those utensils when you sell the chametz away. So you don't have that in possession. Or, of course, you nullify it. It's put away. It's locked up. You're not going to access it. It's part of your nullification. That comes part of your bittul nullification that you make also, and that's another way of getting rid of it. If kneading will be done in the vessel on Pesach, it must be scraped and kashered with boiling water. When two pieces of dough, each less than a kazayas, are present, they are treated as a single kazayas if they're physically connected in any way, and they will be lifted together or even connected to the same keli. Or in a house where sweeping would bring them together, if they are clearly separate locations, then the matter is in doubt. In such unresolved cases, one could nullify, do the bittul, and need not destroy them, since the remaining obligation is rabbinic and the doubts remain lenient. Okay, that was 442. That was Tough Mem Bays in a nutshell. It's very long, as you can see. I'm scrolling down. It's very, very long. It's a lot of different moving parts over there. I'll try to make a different video going through each and every part, but the basics come down to the fact that you have to make sure you get rid of the chametz. And again, if it's for a purpose that's not for food, that's not going to be used as food and not near food, then that could remain. It could be nullified for its other purpose, but if not, or if it's a significant amount, then you have to get rid of it. And if you have things that are on food that will be touched by food, then you have to also sell that and lock it away. And if you're going to use a certain vessel on Pesach that may have traces of chametz, you have to kasher it. And kashering it is in Even Ezer. Okay, now we're up to Simin Taf Mem Gimel. Chametz Misha Shois, the chametz from the 6th hour Umayla and onwards, b'yom Yudalad on the eve of Passover, on the 14th. Also min Torah, that's forbidden according to Torah. V'loikin love, and if a person's found in it, then he can get lashes in a time where Bezdin actually sat. Afalpi Shabala Itter Kasav She'ena La Midrabanan, even though the Rabbanan wrote that it's only Rabbanan, Ubal Hamar Kasav Shemutul Achloi Al Adalayla, and the Baal Hamar wrote it's permitted really to eat it until the night. Shaba Achliasai Mas Mashbisai, because eating it is also eliminating it. So here's the machlokes. From the 6th day on is when they'll give Korban Pesach, and you couldn't have chametz in your house. So therefore, some say that from the sixth hour and on, you cannot have it, and it has to have been gone by then. The other ones who say that according to the Torah, it's not yet the time to get rid of it, means you could eat it up until you could have it up until the 6th hour, but from the 6th hour and on, you have to actively be destroying it, which means you could be eating your chametz and actively destroy it up until nightfall, according to those. But those are very minority opinions, and for the most part, the way I read the Torah and the way my forebears read the Torah and the way Tur obviously paskins and reads the Torah is that it's deraisa from the 6th hour and on. You cannot have chametz possession. It has to have been destroyed, eliminated before that. Okay. For Rambam Kasav, the Rambam wrote, Shaloikin alav mishay shai somayla. You do give him lashes in the 6th hour and onward. Lozeh hiskim adoniyavi rush, and the Rush wrote as well. Ukidai usarach hadam min avera, and in order to distance a person from transgression, haisif achamim laiser. The rabbis, the Chazal, the Sanhedrin, the Anshe Knesset, they added 2 additional hours. The Hainu Mischila Shais Chamishas, from the beginning of the 5th hour. So they added from the 5th hour. In other words, from the beginning of the 5th hour, you can no longer have chametz. So from midday, that's the Yeraisa. Rabbanan is you shouldn't have it anymore past the 5th hour. However, during the entire 5th hour, it is still permitted to derive benefit. 5th hour meaning 4 hours a day passed. So not from the 6th hour, but from after the 6th hour. In other words, from midday, which is after 6 hours have passed, that is a deraisa. That's in the Torah. When 4 hours have passed, now you're into the 5th hour, that's when the rabbi said you could have benefit, but you should not eat it. And that's when you destroy it. And after the 5th hour is finished, this whole entire 6th hour, then you should not have chametz in your house at all, and it can have any benefit from it, and you can't have any possession from it. You're still able to sell to a non-Jew during the 5th hour, afilu harbe b'yachad, even in a large quantity. Even though you know he's not going to eat it before Pesach, v'afilu kaisach, and even kaisach, which is something that's difficult to eat. And he may feed it to his domestic animal for his wild, to his wild domestic animal like cattle, his wild animal like deer, and his birds. Provided he stands over them, that he did not hide any from him. They don't leave any over from him after the 5th hour. And you have to destroy what is left over. And for the beginning of the 6th hour, after that, it's also prohibited to have any sort of benefit from it, for him, for his animal, for anything else. Kaddish by Isha Einam Kadeshes. If he's Makadish a woman with it, betrothed a woman with it, at that time it's not a good betrothal. Kevan Shasru Bana L'chol Yisrael, since it's forbidden to benefit for all Yisrael. Hilkach Yisrael Shahaya Biyadai Chametz Shachavera B'Kadam. Therefore, a Jew who has chametz in his possession that it belongs to his fellow. Ve'egia Pesach, and Pesach arrives. Yachrenu ad shah chamishis, he should hold it on until the 5th hour. V'im loy bo balav yimkrenu la'akum, and if his owner did not come, he should sell it to a non-Jew. V'im loy machrei tzarech levaroi bizman esroi, and if not, then he can't sell it. Then it's destroy it because it comes prohibited. Af im enechaya b'chrayis, even if he's not liable for it, like we spoke about before. Maisa The Konsa, Shivcha, Nachris, there was an incident where a non-Jewish maidservant purchased Yerakos, vegetables, Bechama Tzachar Sheish, with chametz after the 6th hour. Vitira Rabbeinu Tam permitted it, Lefisha Enoi Toifam Damav, because he didn't want because they did not attach any monetary value to it. Because we said in Tractate Chulin, in Mesachtas Chulin, that Chimson Shaloi Ever Avera La'achar Pesach Mutter. The chametz of transgression after Pesach is permitted. Bifnei She'ein Machlifin, because they exchange it. So he's saying that in that situation, it was fine, and therefore, it was fine to hold on to the chametz. It didn't have any real value to it. But the rule is that from after the 4th hour, you could have benefit from it into the 5th hour. You got to destroy it, and into the 6th hour, you have to have destroyed it already, and you can't have any benefit from it. Now we're on Tuf Mem Dalid, Tur Orach Chaim. Arba Asar Shechal Liyas Shabbos. Let's say the 14th, the eve of Pesach falls out on Shabbos. So this does not really apply this year, but we'll go through very quickly. Liyas Shabbos Baitkin Belel Gimel. So you search on the 13th. Ma'arv v'nakal of Shabbos. I think it's to be destroyed before Shabbos. We sure Mizmazoin Bei Sudais L'Tzorach Shabbos, and you leave over chametz for the 2 meals of Shabbos. L'Tzudis Gimel B'Zmana Achar Mincha, and for the time of the 3rd meal, which is after Mincha. Vaz Ena Yachal Asais by Machmatz V'Leib Chametz. Then one cannot make it with matzah. No, you can't have the shalshut as the 3rd meal with matzah or with chametz. V'Toiv L'Asai B'Peros. It's better to do it with fruits. For Rabbeinu Tam, Hayanoyeg Lasai b'matzah shira, and Rabbeinu Tam would practice it with enriched matzah. In other words, matzah that's real matzah, but it was enriched, had egg in it, so therefore it's not really used for the seder. And really, on the eve of Pesach, we're not supposed to having matzah because we want to have a custom to save our taste of matzah for the seder, which is at night. But matzah shira he allowed in this situation for the meals and also for shalshut, so the 3rd meal. Shenshloisha b'mai peiros, which is needed with fruit juices. V'chein Hayra Rash, and so too Rashi. So too Rashi ruled that Levar Akol Lefnei Shabbos, you destroy everything before Shabbos. L'shai Muslim Beisudis, and you leave things over for 2 meals. V'lo yachol matzah, and you should not eat matzah. Kidei sheichel oisu b'layla l'sei oven, because Rashi had the custom that they eat it with an appetite. Since they have to eat it with an appetite, therefore you're not allowed to eat matzah on the eve of Passover, because you're not going to eat it with an appetite. Because then you can have matzah all day already. So therefore, do not leave room matzah for the meals. It's also better to destroy chametz for chatzos. Even though technically it's only the 13th and you can have it the whole entire day. So someone should not mistake in between the years. Oh, last year, remember, we burned chametz almost by nightfall. Not remembering that last year was actually the eve of Passover came on Shabbos, and therefore Friday really was the 13th, not the 14th. So therefore, of course, you're allowed to have chametz the entire 13th, the entire Friday, because Passover was not till Sunday. But he's not going to remember. He's going to remember, I remember that we burnt it after midday. So therefore, not to get confused, we burn it before midday every single year, even in such a situation. And on Shabbos, he should nullify it. Now, this is what the Rav says. Chuvas Ladoni Avirash. The Rush is like this. Shalta Yudalid Shechal Liyas B'Shabbos. Regarding when the 14th that falls out on Shabbos. Im Yachol Loimar La'akim. If you're able to say to a guy, L'Hailech Mappa V'Akrois Chutz L'Bayis, whether you can take my tablecloth and the bowls outside of the house. Lo Yadana Lama Tzarech L'Haitzi Mappa V'Akrois Chutz L'Bayis. I don't know why it's necessary to take the tablecloth and the bowls outside the house. Why? He has a better solution. Ella yaner amapa. Rather, he should shake out the tablecloth. And should wipe the pots with his fingers. You cannot really wash dishes on Shabbos, so wipe it out with your fingers. And he should hide them from sight. Together with all the other vessels of chametz you're hiding over Pesach, and that's good enough. Hailech biyam yedaled lidvar mitzvah, and one who goes on the 14th for the sake of a mitzvah, again lamul as benai. In other words, he has to give a circumcision to his son. He's giving birth to his son. Or he's going to eat the first meal of getting engaged. Or a meal of engagement gifts in the house of his father-in-law. So the niskar sheyesh lo chametz bebeisa. So he has to remember there's a chametz in his house. Im yachal lachzar lebeisa. If he returns to his house, lebal lachzar lemitzvah. If he can to return to destroy it and then return to his mitzvahs, yachzav avra. He should return and destroy it and then go back to his mitzvahs. Al kamo, certainly hu chayzer al kibetza. How much more if he has like more than an egg volume? The imlav, he's not able to return. Sheni al lachzar, then he can't return over there. Or if it's less than really an egg amount, that he should nullify in his heart, and that is sufficient. Now, let's say you go on a tzala call. Let's say you go to save someone from river, you go to your first responder, you go to save someone from a heart attack, umin had dlaka, or from a fire, you're a fireman, and you go to save someone, umiyada akum, or from the hands of non-Jews if he's kidnapped. You have glanu belibai v'lo yachzar. He should nullify in his heart and not return. Now, what happens if if he's going to establish an eruv? In order to, and this is a discretionary matter, this is not something that has to be done. He goes immediately in and he has to return and he has to destroy. Even if he's going to establish an eruv and study before Rebbe to understand how to do an eruv, this is still considered a discretionary matter, and he should go back to deal with the chametz and then deal with the eruv. If he had dough in his house, for who Torah b'makom echad, and he was occupied in another place, v'yara shema tachmitz, and he feels that it may become chametz, then mevatloi b'liboy b'makom shehu. Wherever he is, he should do nullification. Kaidim shal tachmitz, before the dough could become chametz. So if you have dough and you're afraid that if you leave it to more than 18 minutes, it's going to rise, come chametz. So you should nullify it, whether it's erev Pesach or it's on Pesach, before the 18 minutes goes, nullify it and done, and you don't have to worry about chametz on Pesach. We shall continue further, hopefully tomorrow.